Thanks so much for being with us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm Joy Lynn Nakrin. You know, we're on here today because we continue to follow the latest in the Georgia indictment of the former president, Donald Trump, and 18 of his co-defendants, his accused allies in this case, which, you know, the top count of this indictment, of course, is a RICO charges we've been discussing here on Atlanta News First Plus. I want to bring in our special guest joining us this afternoon. We have local attorney Jamara Edwards Shipp. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So as we've been talking about, you know, Trump and his co-defendants have until next Friday, August 25th, to actually turn themselves into the Fulton County Jail, and they would be processed like any other defendant would be. We have heard from the local sheriff saying that, you know, we can expect to see a mugshot just like any other defendant. First of all, let me ask you, do you believe that we are going to see a mugshot?
I don't believe we'll end up seeing a mugshot. If we do, it'll be released by former President Trump himself, probably to fundraise off of. But as far as the city of Atlanta, or excuse me, Fulton County, releasing that mugshot, I don't think we'll see it.
And in what other ways do you think that we could see the process being similar or different to other defendants accused of these kind of crimes? You know, again, let's just remind the viewers we're talking about numerous conspiracy charges, false statements, violation of the Georgia RICO Act. A reminder for everybody: Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act. So it's something that, you know, targets a criminal enterprise.
So what I'm really interested to see is if Fulton County will use the same, I guess, standard practice that they've been using with people who have been charged with these kinds of charges, whether it be, you know, defendants in the YSL trial or even gang RICO charges. Will they be asking for a no bond for former President Trump?
Yeah.
This is going to be very interesting to see, because I know that that's, you know, the standard practice as of now, to say no, we oppose bond for any of these other, I guess you could say, regular defendants, regular people. But with a high-profile person such as this, is Fulton County going to come out and say, okay, well, we oppose bond for X, Y, and Z reasons? That's going to be real interesting to see.
And you know, that's what I wanted to ask you. Is my understanding is that generally RICO defendants are not given bond, that they're held in jail. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because you actually argue cases in Fulton County.
Yes, that is typically the standard process. You know, many of times myself and my colleagues have tried to, you know, work out what is called a consent bond, where we don't have to go in front of a judge and we just are able to work with the ADA handling the case. And they have told us, you know, standard practice is we don't give bonds on these types of charges. So when you have someone like former President Trump and his other 18 defendants, it's going to be very interesting to see if they stick to the same script and say, okay, well, yeah, we're going to oppose bond and not give him special treatment because he is a former president.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. And, you know, as we're kind of looking at this process, another thing I just want to make sure that our viewers are clear on is, you know, I mean, we do have, of course, we anticipate an arraignment, but I want to point out that the former president, like any other defendant, all the defendants in this case, they do have the right to waive an arraignment. So they don't have to appear in court when it comes down to it, which is, of course, you know, what is typically done is that, you know, during an arraignment, the charges are read and the defendant has the opportunity to enter their plea of guilty or not guilty. Do you think that the former president, would appear for his arraignment?
You know, we're talking about someone who is good at showmanship, so it is very possible that he will be showing up for arraignment, whether it's to, you know, wave at his supporters, have video for, you know, campaign videos or whatnot. He's going to most likely show up. Some of the smaller name defendants, or some of the people who aren't as well known, they will most likely, you know, waive arraignment, just because, you know, sometimes people don't want to travel. Sometimes people have other things in their schedule. But it is a high probability, in my opinion, that former President Trump will not waive arraignment. He may waive a formal reading of the indictment, but he most certainly will show up for the arraignment.
Okay, so there's so many steps here. First, of course, there's the processing. That's the next thing that we're going to expect. They turn themselves in, they get processed in the Fulton County Jail. Between then and arraignment, what happens?
Okay, so between that and arraignment, normally we have the process of, trying to figure out, okay, what charges are really going to stick, what are we really looking at, what type of exposure this person is looking at. And when I say exposure, I mean how much time they're really facing. And we discussed that with the client. I'm pretty sure his lawyers will be doing that. What you brought to my attention is that, there may very well be a attempt to remove this to federal court in the meantime under the removal statute in the United States Federal Code. So, that could be something that's going to be a big story coming up, because I'm very positive that they will be trying to do whatever they can to try to slow this process down, just because of the gravity of the charges and the consequences that he could face on this state charge.
Yeah, because that's something we were talking about, that the former Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, his team has tried to get this moved to federal court in their circumstance. So maybe we could see other defendants do the same thing, follow that lead.
Right. Under United States Code, if you're operating under the color of being a U.S. official and you're brought up on state charges, you can ask for the federal courts to intervene and basically take over the prosecution. And the stories are coming out now that Mark Meadows is saying that, I want to remove this to federal prosecution. Now, one caveat in that is that the proceedings in state court can still proceed under federal code. You can't have a entering of a conviction if it's being held up in federal court. So, this is going to be something that I'm pretty sure that they'll be trying to utilize, all defendants, because I'm pretty sure that they will try to say, yes, I was operating under the color of being the chief of staff, or under the color of being the United States president, or being an advisor to the president. And if they are able to successfully do that, then they may be able to ultimately, if all their cards fall right, be able to get themselves pardoned on these federal charges and, not have to worry about the state charges. That's the end game, basically.
Now, I want to, first of all, I'm seeing some people comment that are watching us live right now. First of all, one person says Meadows wants a federal case instead because he knows he's going to prison and federal prisons are safer than state. I want you to answer that question. But I also am seeing comments that I need to, the volume's too low. So let me move your microphone a little
sorry
closer.
about that.
No, that's probably my fault. So let me see if I can make that
There
better.
we go.
Is that better?
I hope that's better for everyone.
Hopefully our viewers will let us know.
Right.
I'm sure they will let us know. But somebody else wrote, somebody, one of our viewers is like, pump up the volume, and somebody else wrote, it's not a hip hop station. So,
Gotcha.
So hopefully you can hear the conversation. But
Gotcha.
this viewer, Amanda Root, saying, that he wants that Meadows wants that federal case because he wants to go to federal prison, thinks that federal prisons are better. Is that fair?
So I would agree that federal prisons are usually administered, federal prisons usually are better than state prisons. I mean, there's a whole idea that people go to Club Fed just because federal prisons usually don't have as much security. Most of these individuals in federal prisons are there for white-collar crime, so it's not as bad as a state prison. Now, is that the reason that Mark Meadows would try to move it to federal court? I would have to respectfully disagree with that. I think he's most likely trying to get these charges dismissed, or either, get himself a pardon if former President Trump was to win in this particular campaign.
Hey, I need to tell you, our viewers are so funny. Somebody said, let me see, I just want to give credit where credit is due to the right name. Somebody says they like your tie and your bow tie, and you look like you're going to the Academy Awards. I just want
Well, I
you to know,
appreciate it.
we just need a little bit of comic relief here
Right.
every once in a while, talking about all this heavy stuff. Oh,
Yes.
who said they like Not the now there's a whole conversation going about your bow tie.
Oh,
About if
gosh.
you're the bow tie type or if you're a scientist or what. So just so you know.
Oh gosh.
So that could be
Okay.
your next thing.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, look, when we're talking about what's happening with this Trump case, one of the things, this is way far down the line, right? Because we have to have all these steps. They
Right.
got to turn themselves in, get processed in Fulton County Jail. There's got to be the arraignment, and all that. And then there's a lot that goes on before there's an actual trial. Of course, there's going to be all these pretrial motions.
Right.
Lawyers saying, I want this evidence in, I want this witness in. And other lawyers saying, I don't. Keep that
Right.
stuff out. It needs to be excluded.
Yeah.
I'm making it a little more.
Right.
I'm simplifying it.
Correct.
But down the line, say all that stuff happens, there's a trial, he's convicted, the former president is convicted. You did some research and you looked at the sentencing statutes.
Yes.
And you found out he could be locked up for
76.5 years.
76.5 years. That's about how long he's been alive.
Yeah, exactly. He is looking at possibly facing the rest of his natural life in prison. So this is a high stakes game. This is not something that he's taking lightly. And additionally, in the state of Georgia, you have to serve at least 5 years of your sentence before you can ask for a pardon with the Georgia State Board of Pardons. So, this is monumental for him. And I would expect that, former President Trump and his supporters or his co-defendants, do whatever they can to try and, keep this from happening to him, because again, 76.5 years is a long time. The RICO statute in itself, the maximum is 20 years. So, looking at a maximum of 20 years just off the first count of the indictment, it kind of sets the stage of, okay, this is real. I got to try and figure out a way out of this for former President Trump.
Definitely, absolutely. Gosh, anything else that's been popping up? I know you've been doing so much research on this case.
Right.
Anything else that's standing out to you?
It's
We need to be
just-
thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, this whole process from how it's going to play out for even Atlanta traffic is going to be.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's going to be very monumental in the city. I could expect many streets to be closed. I believe someone asked, does his Secret Service go in with him when he goes to get processed at the Rice Street Jail? And those are real questions that we've never had to answer before, because we've never had a former president actually be indicted on felony charges. So, again, this is one for the history books. I'm looking forward to, seeing this and being able to study this for years to come and possibly tell, my grandkids about this situation, because this is monumental for all of our lives.
Absolutely, it really is. I mean, this is the fourth indictment of a former
Right.
president. I mean, it's historic upon historic upon historic. So, I also want to ask you, what do you think we might see as potential defenses to all this?
I would say he's most likely going to try and follow Mark Meadows and say that he's operating under the color of law, under the color of being an official for the United States. So therefore, he can't be tried in state court. And again, he's always maintained that, this was a perfect phone call. Nothing was wrong with it. He was just exercising his First Amendment right. So, even if he's unable to get it removed to federal court, I think he's already tipped his hand in other filings in other courts that, this is his First Amendment right. So therefore, he cannot be prosecuted for using his First Amendment right to protest the election.
Hey,
Go ahead.
I have a question for you. So we have a viewer who's saying, Jose Marrero, thank you for watching, says, who has the say if the case is moved to federal court?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Who has the say if the case is moved to federal court?
Okay, so the district judge, once the notice is filed, then the district judge will take a look at the notice and determine whether or not it will be sent back to state court, or whether or not they will just go ahead and accept it and transfer the case from state court to federal court. That's who has the ultimate say-so in this.
We have some viewers asking, is this going to be televised? And, it's something that that's the judicial discretion. But
Right.
I do want to, right? It's judicial
Right,
discretion.
right.
But I do want to point out, the federal court cases, I mean, there are no cameras in federal court.
No.
So, that's why we didn't see anything out of what happened in Florida, what happened in Washington, D.C. In New York, I believe it's also up to judicial discretion. And we didn't see the cameras there.
Right. I'm not particularly well versed on how
In New
the
York law.
New York laws are as far as their video recordings are, but I know that a motion can be made in Georgia to record in the courtroom, and if this motion is approved, then this whole process will be televised for all of the nation to kind of see what's going on in that courtroom with former President Trump and his co-defendants.
Somebody writes with obviously a fake name. They're not Hedy Lamarr, but they said they are. That's their name. Why are you so bent on Donald Trump's demise? And just so you know, we are at least I can say for myself. I'm a journalist, so I don't have an opinion. If I do, I keep it to myself. But this is something of national interest that's happening right here in Fulton County, Georgia, which is where we're standing. This is something that our viewers are asking about. So we don't have a horse in the race. I'm a horse person, but we don't have a horse in the race. This is just something that our viewers have expressed a lot of interest in, and it's going to affect people right here in Atlanta. There are going to be people right here in Atlanta who have already served on the grand jury, have already issued the indictments, already served on the special purpose grand jury that led to this grand jury that then issued the indictments of the courthouse workers in Fulton County. Roads have been closed here, and then when this thing goes to trial. Again, there's a huge jury selection process. And since we're talking about, and these are going to be from right here in Fulton County, the people deciding the fate of the former president and these other co-defendants. But this jury selection process, I want to ask you, look at the YSL case. Because that's the thing. Now, top count here is RICO.
Right.
And RICO cases are notoriously long and complicated. Case in point, this YSL case that's going on right now, it's already the 8th month of the year. Jury selection is still going on. Voir dire, also known as voir dire.
Right.
I don't even know if they're close.
No,
do you know?
No, I don't think they're close. And, the statement that District Attorney Willis made during the press conference is that she wants to try this in 6 months. And I don't think that that's a realistic timeline just based on the YSL trial and how it's been going. To think that you can actually start trying this case without, going through multiple jury panels, trying to find a jury that will help the district attorney's office convict him, or in some cases, help jurors that would, acquit him of these charges, is going to take much longer than 6 months. We're already seeing that, motions are being filed. Stays are being asked for. So, the idea that this would happen in 6 months is, almost like a fairy tale. I doubt highly that we'll see it within the next 6 months. And of course, if, the federal trial goes before that, his lawyers are most likely going to ask for continuances, ask for conflicts because they have to appear in federal court. The idea that it will happen in 6 months is just, it's not going to happen, in my opinion.
Okay, but somebody is asking why you're looking down, and they think,
the camera
you're
sits up
researching.
And
Why don't you show the papers?
Oh, well, yeah. So
show the
I look
papers.
down at all my papers and everything, and I'm kind of like, okay, let me make sure I'm saying the right thing.
If I'm looking down, it's because I'm actually punching these different buttons. Like when you see him come up, me punching a button. And I press myself, punching a button. Now you're going to two boxes because I'm punching a button.
So,
okay?
yeah.
So that's what I'm doing.
Trying to make sure we give you the right information, that's all.
You have any more information that you want to share?
Not anything. I mean, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram or, Facebook.
Let me pop up your name super so they can see your name. But
Right.
yeah, if they want to follow you.
They can follow me on Instagram, JShippLaw, JSHIPPLAW, or on Facebook, Jamara Shipp, or JShipp, JAYSHIPP.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. Before we let our viewers go, I just want to, and you go, I just want to point everybody to AtlantaNewsFirst.com because I can't say enough how amazing this section is, and our team works so hard to organize all this. Again, you just go on AtlantaNewsFirst.com, you click on Trump investigation at the top, and then you have all of this research that we've compiled. I know the screen is black now. It's taken a second to load. But you have all of the articles, just kind of explaining in a really simple way what, it is basically just very organized, what the landscape really is here. The Georgia indictment. But again, this is just one of 4 criminal indictments now against the former president. We've outlined the key figures, the timeline, the grand jurors, the phone call, that really kind of led to it all, as they say. And if you look here, all the stories are organized chronologically, so you can get the latest, and then you can kind of go back and get your background that you may have missed. Or if you're confused, and because it's confusing, how can you not be? So anyway, well, thank you so much. Again, thanks to our viewers for joining us, and we really appreciate it. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Okay, have a great day.
All righty.